Whether or not you're ready, here we are.
We're
Hey,
live.
everyone.
We're live.
We are smiling to mask our sadness.
I'm so happy.
We are so okay right now. We
feel
are just
great.
so satisfied with how the games have gone this weekend. Aren't you, Jordan?
Boy, those were some League of Legends games.
Boy, howdy, did we play games today and
Two,
yesterday.
well, not two today. uh,
Yeah. Well, there will be plenty of time to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let us start off by saying I'm Cole and that's Jordan. This
Hey.
is 100 Talk, or
Yeah.
100 Talk if to be more accurate, to be more on brand.
yeah, thank you.
And
We're working on that.
Yeah, we're working on our own branding. Hey, I'm a little under the weather. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I've
but
been
you got your
sick
tea.
for. What'd you say?
You got your tea.
Yes, my tea in my 100 Talk mug / 100 tea mug.
I call it the 100 Talk mug.
The 100. We're working on it, on the branding, our own branding. Yeah, I've been sick for like a week actually, and I'm being hit particularly hard right now. So I apologize. Let me take another sip of this juicy tea.
I'm gonna say it was right around the time that you sent all of your energy into the players when we were in LA, and you went. I saw you doing like a power move. It's kind of like, "Ah!" And then
It was in the parking lot. It was kind of weird.
we pulled off that play. That's what happened. That's how it went.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
It was worth it. I'll
gonna speak
go
on
down
your
sick.
behalf.
My health is your decision to make.
Exactly. That's exactly. I would do it again. I would do it all over.
Of course, Jordan is referring to our trip out west to the city of the Angels for LCS Week 3, in which we went a stunning 2-0. Some might say it was the exact opposite of our record from this weekend.
I would say that. And I would say the games were the opposite as well.
Yeah.
Not only the outcome, but the actual games. Completely opposite.
Yep. It was a barrel of laughs and a load of fun. And Jordan, if you don't mind sharing, what was your favorite memory?
Well, I think for me, it was when we just got there. We're like, LCS, pretty cool. Pretty cool environment here. Pretty good vibe. I'm digging it. We're fans. These people are fans. We're getting hyped. And then someday came out with the most insane Urgot play any human, living or dead, has ever seen. And that was like, that's how we knew it was going to be a real good weekend.
Yeah, it happened early and it happened hard. It was a very hard 1v2 outplay.
Hey, are we still hosting Diego on our Twitch stream right now?
Oh, I don't know. Are you looking?
I think we are.
It
It's like it reverted back to hosting him, which is fine. Diego's a good guy.
a good dude. Okay, I'll be looking into that. Jordan, do you want to talk about how we ended up on the heist really quick while I investigate this little production issue?
I will do that. So when you're there, you get to kind of get the behind the scenes look at what's happening. And believe it or not, the way they put the heist together is they have people there with cameras recording everything that's happening. So at a few different points, we were caught on film. Gabe had a big like shoulder mount camera, like you see the news crews with. I'm just kidding, he didn't have that. But he did capture us, and it's like I said, Someday came out and did his play, and then we lost our minds collectively, just 100%. There's no coming back. And if you go back and watch that heist, you can see in the top left corner, Cole and I are there, absolutely losing it,
standing up and going crazy,
shouting, screaming, looking at each other in disbelief.
I think I punched you several times. By the way, we're good on Twitch.
Are we?
Yeah, and so not only that, but we also had the opportunity to take a picture of with the team, and made that part made it on the heist too. So we were on the heist, everybody, and it was fun.
We were on the heist twice.
We were on the
in
heist
one episode.
Twice. Actually, like 3 times technically, because during the handshakes on Sunday, you can also see like my receding hairline. If we want to get technical. But yes, it was an amazing weekend. It was so fun. In person, the energy is great. especially
Yeah.
when you're popping off like that. I mean, we saw the Someday play. We saw the This Is Bang play. We saw the Hoo-Hee flank to win the game. It was just a great.
We saw the Anda Eternal Life Camille play.
Yes.
Like he should have been dead 20 seconds ago, and he's still somehow disrupting their all their. It's kind of like their core, and the squishies are just running around. What do we do?
Yep. So
so we saw a lot of good things.
And we discovered something while we were there, is that there is a 100 talk buff.
Yes,
when we are in person or involved with the games, guess what? We win.
Yeah, every time.
And
you might be saying to yourself, "Oh, 2 for 2." My friend, it's 3 for 3.
And why is
buff
that?
Is real. It's 3 for 3 because the other thing we did, less than a week after attending the LCS live and in person, we got to hop on the internet and actually do a cast of the Academy game on Friday, which was 2 days ago, and they just absolutely stomped them. It's like the 100 talk buff gets stronger.
Yeah, they crushed Team Liquid's Academy team.
Even close. It looked like they were playing our pre-made group.
Yeah. So right now, the 100 talk buff is looking quite strong.
It's OP. They've got to do something about it. They're going to have to do a hot fix on the 100 talk buff, especially because it's going to be a while before we're back out in LA.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
And we had talked about that as well, and that we were leaving really hoping hard that it wasn't a real thing. Verdict is out, but so far, we've lost every game since we left LA. We've won both the games when we were there.
Plus the Academy.
I don't know.
Now, and plus, someone on Twitter said we should start a GoFundMe to send us out to the games. I mean, I'm not against it. One more thing.
Who is like super against it?
Who?
Team My family.
Oh, your family? Yes. Okay. Yes. My family also.
My family and
probably
Team
not happy if I go there every weekend. But I'll say one more thing before we stop talking about ourselves and start talking about our beautiful boys, is that Jordan and I were very fortunate to run into one Ron Jobinson, or as you might know him, John Robinson. And we were bestowed upon with one of the most rare pieces of 100 Thieves merch, apparel, whatever you want to call it. This beautiful, beautiful pin. I will treasure this. Captured in this pin is the soul of Ron Jobinson. And I'm going to just put it right here on my setup to always remember his spirit.
It's a Horcrux.
I didn't go that far. I didn't go that far.
I hadn't made the connection until now, but it's a smart move on his part. You got to get those set, kind of send them out in the wild.
Smart move on his part. 200 IQ move by Ron Jobinson.
I've got mine upstairs actually in my fireproof safe thing. So
so
don't worry, John. Even if the house burns down, the pin is safe.
All right, that's enough talking about how much fun we've had this weekend. Let's talk about the times that weren't so great. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, and the worst of times were today and yesterday. Jordan, you want to kick us off starting about game 1 against FlyQuest?
Yeah. Do you have the draft and everything?
I do. Do you want me to kick it off talking about Sure. Yes. Okay.
I can try to do it from memory, but
No, please don't. I would hate for your brain to work too hard.
Yeah.
FlyQuest. So this is how the draft shook out, okay? Someday was on Silas. Big pick there. And on Jarvan. Hoo-Hee on Aurelian Soul. At last. Mm-hmm. At last, we got to see it. Bang took Ashe, and Aframu took Tom Kench. On the other side, Viper got his beloved Riven pick. Santorin took Sejuani, Pobelter on Zoe. Wild Turtle on Ezreal. JJ was Braum. Well, here's what we know. What we know is that Someday did an admirable job on Silas. NA Silas, we can't figure out what it is, but...
Are you sure? Are you going to go? You're going to just start there?
I would like to talk about the Silas pick.
I mean, there's a conversation to be had here on Someday's Silas. He played it well, mechanically. Right, he did a couple of good things. He had that flash over the wall with the glacial prison. It was cool. It was a good play. I think there is something to this whole conversation about the build, and he built a tank. when we needed to have a carry, you know. And I think his hand was forced by the Riven pick. I really do.
Yeah. I don't think they saw that coming, really. Like,
Which they
it's
probably
look, no, I don't know, because it's like, I mean, it's not like I was like, oh yeah, Viper's definitely going to be on the Riven or whatever. But it's like that's a pick that he has, and it's known that he has a very strong Riven.
Right.
But at the same time, when's the last time we saw Riven played in NA?
It's been a while. But I do think that you leave yourself exposed when you first pick Silas. And I know that's the debate. Do you first pick it? Do you last pick it? I think there's pros and cons to either one. If you first pick it, people are going to have to be thinking about how does it feel to have this ult used against me. And if you last pick it, then you just get to have a look at the buffet and see if it looks good to you. So, but that Riven was too dangerous. Like he was getting, the trades were not favorable, so he had to tank up. He had to build tankier, and I think that just kind of threw the whole thing into disarray.
Okay, I think that's kind of fair, but I will say that I don't think the Riven was really a problem until late game. Like, then it started popping off. He definitely single-handedly turned an entire team fight that led to the defeat. So, I don't know. It's kind of debatable. He got some help from Jarvan in lane. Someday did, that is. And, I didn't think it was that poor. Now, the itemization is another thing to talk about, that perhaps you're right about it, but...
and I don't think it was just like, I don't think that was a mental lapse. Like, I don't think it's like he forgot. He's
right.
Like, oh, I was supposed to build. Oh, yeah.
No. Oh man, the plan was this. I forgot it. Yeah.
It's like when you're playing at carry, and you just buy all AP stuff. You're like, oh, dang.
Oh man, I bought only armor. I forgot.
Again. I think that a really telling moment was when it was them. It was someday bot lane kind of 1v1ing, and Jarvan came in, saved the day. And they got the kill. It was very close. Yeah, it was very close.
It was super close.
And that was the first sign, I think, that this Riven was going to get out of control. And I think that's exactly what happened. Like you said, I think late game it ended up just being that this Riven was way too much.
Yeah, and it was a game where both teams played very tentative. So kills were precious. And when you get 3 in one fight, that tends to end things for people.
Yeah.
But let's back it up a little bit, because... you brought up what a lot of people are talking about, which is, do you ever first pick Silas? So, a question that you had for this show is this a game that we actually did lose in draft? We always hear, oh, the draft was so bad. Like, I don't know, it probably was the or whatever. Whenever anyone loses, let's blame the draft. So what's your take? Is this a game we lost in the draft?
I think so. I think this is one of the, I don't usually say that. I don't, and probably by the way I even worded the question, where I'm going to land on this one. But I think I'm not a big Silas first pick fan. I think it makes it too easy to prepare your team comp with that in mind and just kind of neutralize that champion. The Zoe, just, we were sleeping the whole game. Everybody on the team just drowsy or asleep the whole game. Again, the Riven, we've talked about that. I just think that the way, like, this was the perfect example to me of, we were executing as we needed to. We were absolutely smashing them. We had every Drake. We got first turret. We got first blood. We knocked down their bot lane turret before plates fell.
Am I mistaken? Didn't we have 5 Drakes?
Yeah, we had every Drake.
5 Drakes.
We had full. Okay. I don't think we got Rift, but I think that was maybe the only one we didn't get. Or maybe we did. I don't. But the thing is, it just didn't matter. I was watching this game. I was like, how are we down on gold? What is happening here?
Yeah, like, it was kind of weird. Make sense. And I remember I listened to the dive leading up to this weekend, and Wild Turtle was on the dive, and they asked him what's the weakness of FlyQuest. And one of the things he pointed to was vision. So I was kind of paying attention to that, and we were crushing them on vision, through the first 2 phases of the game.
It was completely dark on our side of the map.
Okay, so that begs the question then. We clearly, our early game was looking good. We could not convert that. When we got to mid game, everything stalled out.
Yeah.
From that point on, it looked like we weren't sure what to do. So what's going on there? Like, why can't we convert all these Drake takes, the first turret, the first blood, all these advantages that we have going over to our side? Why are we unable to convert them into a strong mid game?
My read is, and that's where I think it comes back to the Silas pick. I think we were building the game. We built the team, and I think we were playing the game to get him ahead, and he was ahead, and he wasn't doing damage, and it's because he was building for, he's building tank. So I think that it just didn't translate. The lead didn't translate into a threat from him in any way that was going to be sufficient to give this other team problems. And then I think you throw in the they had so many tools to disengage and hold people off. I think you always had to be worried about the Riven just showing up and blowing someone up. That I think you had to play more careful.
Yeah.
And the Zoe was just it was crazy. And again, like, this is another one of those weekends where it's like, oh no, it's back. It's back. The Zoe is here again. But the Zoe was so good. Like, around, I think about that Baron, where they slow rolled it, and they basically made like the meat processing line where you get on the conveyor belt in, and then they just kill you, and they move on to the next one, and they get that one.
Yep.
It's like you couldn't not go in, but as soon as you step into the river, it's like you're asleep, and then they jump on you and you're dead. So their team comp was really good, and it was really good at basically neutralizing every advantage we had. They just turned it all into nothing.
Yeah.
Like, how many mountain drakes do you need if you can't get into the Baron pit,
Right. Yeah. We got triple mountain and no opportunity to use it. So,
yeah.
Not to say that they weren't looking for a pick. It looked to me like they were trying to find a pick, but they weren't doing so in a decisive way. It was kind of like, all right, let's like walk around. Let's not go too far from mid and see, what kind of turns up into our lap, like waiting for them to make a mistake. But I just was watching this thing, and even when we were ahead, I felt very strongly that they're the aggressors, and we're just reacting to whatever it is. And I don't know if that's the move for season 9, excuse me, for season 9 right now. I don't think that's the move.
Do you see, when you look at the team that we had in this match, do you see a way that we could have or should have played it differently?
I would have to point to the build on Silas again,
and just the build prevented us from actually finding the engage, starting the fights we needed.
Yeah, because you want to feel like when you commit all those resources to something, you're going to come away with the kill.
Yeah.
And when you don't have quite the damage that you need, it's going to make you a little more tentative.
Right. Like, if you need 2 people to take out your opponent in lane, you can't. Think how different that would be if it was Riven on the run, right?
Yeah.
But the Riven knew that if somebody doesn't have his friends there, she's fine. She'll win. So,
which is especially painful since Someday himself is such a good Riven.
It's
just
right.
Seeing that play out is sad. But one thing I also noticed is that it seems like we have, in our losses, we've gotten caught out in these team fights in the jungle. And I swear to you, we are always getting split into different portions of the jungle.
Yeah.
So 2 of us are here, 3 of us are there. And then the opposing team is able to just beeline for one of those 2 groups and take everybody out.
Blow it up.
Happens over and over and over again. And I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what the problem is. I've never seen it happen so frequently to people. And this is going to come up again. So that's why I'm bringing that out right now.
No, you're totally right.
But it just happens over and over again. And if we can't all get in the same space, then there's not much we're going to be able to do. If they've got a lot of AoE stuff, that gets tricky. But man, you got to figure it out anyway.
Right? So. Yeah. It's like we lose lane priority, and then we are kind of milling about in the jungle trying to set something up, and then something, they kick it off instead. And it's like we got one person over here with the chickens. We got 2 guys over by the Drake. It's just it's lost before it starts.
Yeah,
you're right. That's a good call.
So I think the overall story of the game was just maybe a build mistake. It's debatable whether it's a mistake or just out of necessity, right? The build was forced into a more tanky thing for Silas. The strong early game wasn't able to be translated into an aggressive mid game and a close. And instead we stalled out waiting for something to happen. It never did, for us at least. And we ended up not having the gusto during the team fights. So let's move on. Let's talk about game 2 really quickly, and then we'll talk about some overarching things. Also, I see a couple people asking about the giveaway at the end of the show tonight. We'll let you guys know who won the giveaway. So we'll be announcing that in the closing minutes of the show. So stick around for it. It should be a fun time, especially for our winner. Okay, game 2 with Echo Fox. I think this was a drastically different thing that happened to the team, because I came away from the FlyQuest game thinking, I'm really sick of like playing the wait and see game, and I think right now with this meta, we need to find a way to be more aggressive and make plays, be decisive, force things to happen, and not force in like the the bad sense of the word, but you make a play, find the play and make it. So seeing the way that the draft shook out in the second game, I was like, wow, have they been listening to my thoughts? Has probably tuned in. So let me run the draft really quick, so we're all on the same page about what I mean. So Someday got Jace, and it was on Olaf, Huhi on Lissandra, Bang took Ashe, and Aftermoon took Tom Kench again. On the other side, Solo, my number one favorite player in all of League of Legends, took Malphite. Rush took Jarvan, Phoenix grabbed Zoe, Apollo took Sivir, and Hakuo was on Alistar. So looking at our team comp, right? Jace, Olaf, Lissandra, Ashe, Tom Kench is like, okay, we're going to move around and make some plays.
Yeah, right. And
they drafted like that, and then they started to play like that too. Yeah. Right?
Like there's a couple really good, maybe one or two really good Tom Kench ultis that got him to where he needed to be, which were fun to see.
That's the way to say it, right? They got him to where he needed to be. Yes.
Well, you get it, right? It's like when he showed up and then Bang stepped out, I was like, oh yeah, the party has arrived.
Yeah.
And didn't stay that way.
It didn't play out, and that was the weirdest thing. Okay, so the story of this game for me was, again, I think we made a conscious effort to be like, all right, we're going to be aggressors here. We're going to get out on the map. We're going to make plays early, and we're going to snowball this thing and not let it go beyond 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, turns out when you don't execute up to the level that's required, that really, really backfires on you, okay? Now, I mean, unmistakably, this was a conscious effort to do that, right? But the execution was maybe the worst we've seen, I think, out of this team.
Yeah.
It was very sloppy, and it was tentative, and it felt forced. The biggest thing for me was like, do you remember that dive up top that Anda and Someday tried to pull off on Solo?
Level 3.
Where Solo kind of looked like he was waiting. He's like, all right, you guys got me. Like
you sure you want to
finish it off?
Do this?
And they were so hesitant about it. Ended up taking too much turret aggro, burning both of their flashes, just getting out of there. And Solo's still sitting with a third of his health bar. It came out really, really poorly.
The thing is, when you're level 3, taking too much turret aggro means like 2 shots. Like that's all you get.
But it even looked like they weren't setting it up to be juggled properly.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it's like it was so telegraphed that you cannot do a dive like that unless you're so strong that it doesn't matter. You could type in all chat, "We're gonna come get you in a minute. Stick around." Like, that's when you can do the dive that they tried to do. At level 3, you just can't do that, especially if you're going to kind of be like, I'll go. No,
I see a world where that would have been successful with more decisive play. Like it was almost like
8 more levels.
It was almost like, well, I maybe, but it was almost like Someday and Anda couldn't figure out who was going to go first. Like, all right, who's going to hit him first and take the turret, right? Because I think Someday kind of accidentally like autoed him is what ended up happening or whatever. But look, here's the thing. That play for me, I think just set the whole rest of the game on to the wrong foot. I think Anda tilted. I think Anda just tilted. Because 100%. Here's what we know about him. This dude has been praised by like all the casters and analysts for having crazy early game, right? And we've been trumpeting that too. And he's had a couple rough games, but his early game has always been really rock solid. and he just was not playing like himself. The pathing was kind of weird. I think, wasn't there a second botch dive that really didn't go their way? Like something was just wrong with Anna, the way he was playing.
Yeah, so there was a series of events that all didn't go well. It started top lane. It worked its way down. It was the Drake take where he thought he could kind of sneak the Drake.
Yeah,
and then Rush shows up and reminds him that it's Sunday. Like our chat's been calling out here, the Rush buff kicked in, and so he had just blown his flash, escaping from his dive attempt. So he just kind of sat in the dragon pit while he's getting beat up by both Rush and the dragon, I think.
Yeah. And
then Someday saves him, or Afro saves him as Tom Kench. But it was truly just like a chain reaction. And then he gets killed in bot lane, I think. I think it was actually Bang as an after effect of the failed dragon attempt gets killed bot lane. So it's just like you get this in top, that at the dragon, then Bang gets killed in bot lane, and suddenly we've lost control over the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like one thing led to another, led to another, led to another.
And I think you saw it in after the play you mentioned where Bang went down. Later, Anda was up top side again, and he got into beyond tri-bush. He was in the next bush, going at solo, and like he pushed way too far forward. Like you could tell he just was mad and wanted the kill. Yeah. And he actually got out of that, but it didn't go well. And if he would have been a second later, he probably would have gotten picked off. So I think he just tilted. And to me, it was reminiscent of the Huhi game against C9, where, you know, you just have a couple of things go the wrong way for you, and it just can kind of screw you up for the rest of the game. And I definitely think that was a major part of what happened. So, like, with Anda being, in my opinion, you know, one of the rocks of our early game, when that's not there, the rest of the rest of the plan kind of wasn't falling in place, and maybe that's a fault. Point. Maybe we should be able to have a plan B in there somewhere, but clearly it wasn't working.
I think this is actually it's an interesting topic. I think you're totally right on that. By the way, that it's like so you run the experiment. So what if Anda just turns it off early game? Like, well, this is what happens, you know, and I think there's an argument there, and just like the importance of the jungle overall. But I think it's probably in some ways tied specifically to Anda and how important he is to the squad, because he is disruptive early game. I think he buys our people a lot of room. And so when he's not working, nothing's working. But I can't remember what I was going to say now, but I'll let you keep going. Yeah, that was a good point.
Well, I was going to actually save this for later, but since we're talking so much about Anda right now, one thing to think about was this actually came about because of a Twitter interaction I was having during the game with a friend of the podcast, Zing Lee. That's Zing. At Zing the Lee Li. And he had mentioned something about Anda, and I responded that, you know, Anda had statistically the top early game in the league. Because the stats that he has, you know, like experience differential, gold differential, CSD at 10, like those things, he's all number one in the league by a lot. Like it's not even close.
Right.
And so looking at that, it's like, okay, well, this dude like has a sick early game. But Zing kind of made an interesting point where he was saying, you know, it's since jungle's not a farm lane, there are other things that you have to consider. You have to give it the eye test too, because, you know, what are the things that take up a jungler's time other than clearing camps or whatever? It's, you know, it's ganks that don't result in kills can be successful, right? You force it back. You force someone to miss out on your CS. And so things like that may not show up in the stat sheet still made a difference to your laners and still demonstrated your ability as a jungler. And so the way he said it, the way Zing said it, was that like when you're looking at the stats and like the rankings of how everyone is at everything, he said there's a band where the jungle should be. And being too far above can be just as problematic as being too far below.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was a really interesting thing that I had never really thought of with Anda. Do you have a take on that? Like, because honestly, I'm like, well, the stats are stats for a reason. Like, it's not just, okay, he's clearing all the camps. It's like, you know, you get experience and gold from kills also and assists. Yeah. You know, so it's like, to me, I think that there is definitely something to that argument, but there's also something for a statistical argument. But I want to sort out and a early game? Like, is there a tweak to be made there that could be better for the team?
Yeah, it is a really interesting one to think about. Of just like, you can't just look at the numbers because it doesn't tell the whole story, and it never does. But I think this is actually one area where it may tell them even less than others. Like, I agree with Zing on that. I think the way I think about it right now is, what benefit does his superiority in those stats give us, right? And I think we have this large problem of not being able to capitalize on our advantages. Couple games now where we've had a big lead and have either still taken a really long time to close out the game or lost. And so for me, when I think about Anda, I think that is a question to ask, and maybe part of the problem here. Like, think about this: how many times have you seen Anda go down and absolutely blow open the bot lane, right? Like a couple of precision ganks that start the snowball for Bang. I don't think we see that as much from Anda.
No,
I think he's a power farmer, and he counter jungles, and he's disruptive, and he's good at all those things.
Very good pathing.
Very good pathing,
typically.
Right?
Not today, but typically.
yeah. Today was he turned off his GPS and closed his eyes. But I think what we need for him to do is start translating his advantage into the team's advantage, and I think that's just not it's not coming through.
Yeah.
And I think I know that look, I'm not coaching and on how to jungle.
Right.
I think some of the struggle is when we saw him try to do that today, he basically fed, right? Like, he was up in top lane, not building an advantage. And that it's not all on him, but it takes two to gank, and for right now, for whatever reason, it's just not clicking. And we've seen that in top lane specifically before, where I think there's a really clumsy Urgot attempted gank that didn't go this badly.
Yeah.
But that didn't result in a kill. So it's weird. Like, I would not expect for Anda someday connection to be one of those things we're looking at and being like, what's happening here?
Yep.
Why is this wrong?
Yep. Well, okay. So how did you feel about the overall aggression that the team had, though?
Yeah. I want to talk about this topic because I know that this is one thing you've been calling for a lot, and we've heard probably say that he feels like this is how the game should be played.
Right, that's what I wanted to bring up. This is something that he specifically said we need to do this.
Yeah. So here's my thought on the aggression thing. We were not an aggressive team last year.
Right.
Safe to say.
Yep.
It worked for us. Like, we got to Worlds. We finished third in group. Like, it was successful. It was a successful season by any measure, basically. Like, I think the people would say, like, well, you fell short or you could have done more. It's like, okay.
No, year one, we're fine.
Yeah. Year one, we way overachieved. So we are not an aggressive team. And I think a lot of what we've seen this split is us trying to change that, kind of trying to change the identity of our team. And I think, there are all kinds of different reasons you can do that, right? One is the coach feels like, and so here, I'll kind of lay them out. One reason I think, and this is kind of what my thought is we had something that worked last year to get us to groups in Worlds. It did not work to get us out of groups. And so you kind of don't want to just replay that, right? Like, there's a part of you as a coach and probably as a player that's like, we don't want to just do that again, right? We don't want to do the double lift thing where you get to groups every year and you don't get out of groups. So I think there's kind of this thought, maybe we should change it from that. So that's kind of what I think is there. And I have more I can go through, but what do you think about that?
Well, this is kind of like leading into the next topic I wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
But okay, I think that's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's really what's going on. I think that if there's anything that happened between the end of the regular season and Worlds, is that we saw a definite shift in play style and meta, where it was like, all of a sudden, actually being crazy aggressive and looking for fights all the time and taking risks is paying off.
Yeah.
And that's why we saw Korea like totally fall off the map in Worlds compared to where they usually are, and a team like IG go crazy with it, right? because they're just like unbridled aggression at all times,
Yeah.
So I kind of don't think that that's what's happening. I think that probably does know the meta, and I think that usually there's a way to play that is preferred, and he's aware of it even if it doesn't match us. And I'm wondering here if it's possible that he's just taking a super long view on this season, and he's like, look, we're running through the first set of round robins here, and we have some wiggle room to kind of try some things, to switch some things, change some things. We saw that with picks, right? So we saw some like unusual stuff coming out, like the Victor pick. We've seen Aurelion Sol now. We've seen someday play on carry and someday play on tank. We've seen us playing our like our back off and wait and see how the game develops style. We just tried a hyper aggression play style that didn't go well, but I see him experimenting, and that's kind of what I think he's really doing. And then the second round robin, he'll kind of hone the team in on what he's thinking
what
is
works.
going to be the best solution for us. And I think he'll consider what works in the meta right now and what works for our team right now. So I'm expecting a stronger back half of the split from him. And I'm sorry, my cold's really getting in the way of my talking, but go ahead.
No, that's fine. And I've thought about that too. And I think we've talked about that a little bit, like the experimentation thing. And anytime you have a new squad, you want to figure out what works for them, right? I think the question you have to ask though is, at what point is the experiment done, and when do you start winning? And I think, I think what you're talking about is kind of there's elements of what I was talking about in as well, right? You do that so that you can find, like, let's say that you find something that works at like 80% of your max potential, and maybe 80% of your max potential is still enough to get third place or fourth place in the league. But if you're leaving 20% on the table, is that really the best way to manage the team, right? And is that the best kind of utilization of the resources you have? And I think the answer to that is clearly it's not. The question that remains, I think what a lot of the fans will start to ask is, if you mess around here and miss playoffs, like, I'm not thinking about Worlds, I'm thinking about spring 2019. And right now we have 0 championship points, right?
That's fair. I feel like, look, if you get to the end of week 3 and you're sitting at 3-3, you're like, okay, I'm 500. I basically need to be barely over 500 to make playoffs. That's typically what happens, right?
Right.
Maybe you want to try something in your next couple of games, while you still have some wiggle room. I'm not saying that's definitely what's happening, but I think that there is maybe some room for experimentation, because when you look at it, we're 3-5 right now, and it's like, could be worse, right? We're not exactly like crazy out of reach of the playoffs. We're definitely way below what we expected with this team on paper, and that's problematic. And I do think ultimately, Probably's job and the job of the players, obviously, is to win, right? That's what you do. You win, and that's what we hired you for. Find a way to win. So how urgent is that need to win? Is it, we got to win right now? I think the team kind of wants a banner, right? I think the team wants like to win a split and hang a banner. But is it better to like keep doing stuff that's like maybe a little futile? Or is it like, look, we got to find a way to change our play style. Maybe this is it, and take that risk while it's still early.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a possibility.
It's still early. It's still early for sure. And I think all of the fans, all of us, like, I think we're still thinking about Worlds, right? And we're like, we still have the long view, right? Worlds is a long ways from now.
Sure. Especially because winning spring split is like it's like the thing that matters the least when you're looking at the three spots that we have to send on to Worlds. Honestly, it helps, but like, if we win summer, you're in. So
if we didn't do as well as we did last spring, we wouldn't have made Worlds.
Sure.
So
that's fair.
Like, there's a lot on the table, and I do think that, like, you got to trust that the organization is on the same page as the coach and as the players. Because I think if all three of those are not rowing in the same direction, you're either going to get players who are going to start losing morale, right? And kind of like if people start to get like, it's kind of weird to see us get tilted.
Yeah.
Right. We had rough patches last year. Our guys really didn't get tilted that much that I saw. Like, we've had 2 games already where I can think very clearly of just careless mistakes
tilted,
that are made by somebody who's clearly pissed off, right? And like just not playing at all in a characteristic way for them. So I think we got to be careful about that. And I think you got to keep those 3 things in mind. It's the player, the coach, and the org. And if everybody's on board with this, and like, here's another thing. The dynamic with this team right now is miles better than what we saw last season.
Speaking of like team chemistry, having fun,
team
atmosphere,
chemistry,
that sort of thing. Yes.
Yeah. And like, I don't have concern with this group that there's going to be somebody where we're going to have to say, like, look, we are just not on the same page and it's not going to work. We're going to have to find you somewhere else. Like, I can't see that with anybody. Like, we know And is a guy who, he's quiet, sure, but he works super hard. Like, he went through all the stuff last season. He got traded onto the team. I'm not worried that he is going to be somebody who's like toxic.
Yeah.
And then someday, Bang Afro, who he is clearly like, I think he's just super glad to be on Thieves and to have this opportunity. So it's like, I don't have that concern. I think the concern I have so far as players go is just that they start to doubt themselves.
Yeah. And
that's the risk with just kind of playing fast and loose with some of these wins, right? It's like, we still got time. It's, we got we'll take out Optic next week. Like, yeah, we will. We better. But I think that's what I've kind of got my eye on.
Well, that begs the question, and I mean, I'll give my take on this in a second, but a question that has been sent into us for this show by a handful of people has been, is it time to start subbing in players?
Yeah.
What's your feelings on that?
I could see it. I think we have a really strong academy team, and not just because we've been we casted them and they did really well. If
you're saying right now, it's like there's a risk with playing fast and loose with wins. Okay, so when you sub somebody in, you're running a lot of risk, right? You're running a risk of melting down your starters' confidence level and all that. You're running the risk of, hey, it's actually not working out, and we were way better with the LCS starter, and you just wasted an opportunity. Yeah. And then you're also risking, like, if it plays out that way, you're risking burning an academy asset, basically, because, amen to that dude's chance of ever playing again, unless there are some crazy circumstances, right? So you do run quite a bit of risk by making this move. So are we in dire straits enough to do that?
No, I don't think so. And what I'll say is, I think this year is different in that we have enough talent in the academy lineup that I think it's possible. Like, I think there are players who we could look at and see them with time on the LCS stage. I don't think we're there, and I think the risk of doing that is still too high. I think what we should do, to be honest with you, is I think we should find the thing that works, whatever it is, and hit it hard for like 3 weeks and solidly climb up back into the conversation for top 4. Because right now we're not in the conversation. We're in the conversation for playoffs, which is not where we want to be. We want to be a solid lock for playoffs. So I think we do that. And if we can't do that, then I think we're at the point where we have to start looking at what are the other options.
Yeah.
Because if this is not the squad that can get us into the top 4 conversation, then we're not really where we want to be anyway, or where we need to be.
Right. And I keep thinking about, so who are the players that you're going to sub in, right? All except for Stunt, who, are we going to sub Stunt in for Aframu? I think very unlikely. The other players are all like brand new, basically. They're fresh off of scouting grounds, playing an academy for the first time, and they're like a bit over 500, right? Or are they right at 500 somewhere in their records? So I don't think, like, I'm always told that the difference between an academy level player and an LCS level player is very big, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about like the macro understanding of the game more than the mechanics. That was something that Joseph was talking about. So it's kind of like hard to imagine that any of the guys that we have, even though they're good, would be an improvement. And we'll see. Like maybe somebody has a bad split. Maybe we see more of those games where we're just tilting and we need to refresh everything. But
yeah,
I think right now the risks associated with doing that are too great to take on. And I think I honestly think even, on some of our worst days that we still are better off with our starters over our academy players. So I don't think it's time to sound that alarm bell, and I wouldn't even do it until like summer, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Although I will say I don't think if we find ourselves in the position where we need to bring in academy players, I really truly hope that it's not comparable to last year where we say we're making a change and it's permanent. And I think that change we've talked about this plenty, but I think that was more driven by the circumstances. Like,
yes,
I don't think that was us saying
100%. Yeah.
Riccara is the better player. And so we're just going to play him for good now.
Yeah.
So I would love it if we could get to the point where it's, Saligo's been popping off. Let's see what he can do. Bring him in, and maybe just talk about it beforehand. Like we're going to try him this, like Optic did, and who knows if that's
that was kind of circumstantial too, right? That was
they had like visa issues, but they straight up said we're going to do something different this week. Yeah. Not like we have made a change to our roster.
Yeah.
So I think if we get there, I hope that it's in that way because, like I know deep down, this team, this squad is good enough. I think that there are these lapses we've seen that are uncharacteristic. I think we've tried some strategies that just clearly haven't worked. And so I don't want to put too much on the players at this point and say it's the players. We need to change the players. I think before I get there, I want to see us try a lot more established stuff and have that not work. And then I think we can go there and have that conversation.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a difficult road ahead, no matter how you look at it, because right now we're sitting in a position that we didn't see ourselves sitting in when we signed these players. And obviously we're going to have some drastic improvement. I think we're going to we need some substantial improvement to even make the playoffs, honestly.
Yeah.
Because you got to figure everybody's getting better. And some teams have been able to like plug in new players and it clicks better than others. Like I'm continually impressed by Core JJ.
Yeah.
I did not see him clicking this well.
Right.
For them that as he had like sometimes it works out like that. Sometimes it takes more time. Yeah. Jensen's been doing well too. So
which is why TL is 7-1.
Right. So we have some work to do, and I think it's going to say a lot about Prawley, how the rest of this split plays out. Maybe the potential of tilting players we talked about, that could be something that impacts that and maybe shifts some of the responsibility and onus off of Prawley. But right now, that's where I'm looking. Like we need to have a powwow with the team and have a solid direction and a solid plan and say, this is what we've learned up to this point, and this is what we're going to do going forward. Does everybody feel good about this?
Yeah. And for me, I think the reason that I agree with you on the focus right now being on Prawley, and not to say that this is all his fault or like, he carries all the blame, is I think if you look at the talent on the team, a coach should be able to come up with a strategy that wins more than 50% of the games just by letting these guys play league, like just kind of let them do their thing, set them up well, come up with a strategy that works and let them go. I think part of what I'm seeing is that I think we're trying to do too much. Sometimes we're trying to get a little too cute. And like, he talked about before the TL game, right? That was very clearly a game where we had an idea in mind that did not work out. And again, like we've seen it, Prawley's not the only one making decisions. It seems like he has a pretty collaborative environment with the players where they're talking about these things. And,
for sure.
Like I'm not under the impression that this is just Prawley saying, here's what we're playing. And I don't care if you like it or, whatever. But I think, and like, I don't have any doubt that he can do this, right? That's the other thing is we need to make sure that this is a successful split. We cannot lose sight of this split for what we're trying to get in the future. We can't sacrifice the present for our ambition down the line.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a big thing. I mean, he's going to like, maybe it's even a thing of we have a lot of leader qualities on the team, like leader personalities. Because Aframu is obviously someone that we look to as leader. Bang, by virtue of the rings on his hand, is going to be a leader. I think he feels very comfortable expressing himself, and when you listen to the comms, it seems like everybody's in there talking, right? Which is a good sign. But at the same time, like maybe we just need to find that voice to follow. You know, sometimes it's like there's a lot of good ideas, but we need to pick one of them and do it. You know, so that may be another issue. And maybe right now, like even in a like zoom out even further, that's probably like needs to be like, okay, look, we've done all these things. Here's the new move. Here's the new direction. As long as you guys are in on this, this is what we're going to do, you know, and just ride it out. But I'm nervous for the back half of this split. I think we're going to learn more about Prawley that way.
Yeah. And I am too, and in part because the front half of the split, we got a lot of our hard games out of the way early on. You know, we've got basically 9 games here to salvage the split, and you're playing all the same people who gave you a hard time the first time around. So, you know, like there are, I guess what I'm getting is I don't think there are easy wins, and I think there's a lot of parity in the league. I've said that before.
I do agree with that. There's a ton of parity in the league.
Like, I don't know, looking at the standings right now, who I'd look at and say, this is a gimme weekend. Like, you know, we got to make sure this is a trap game. We can't lose it. I'm kind of going to these saying, like, man, these teams are good. And any one of them is going to make us work for this. Yep.
Not the position we saw ourselves in. In Twitch chat, Etor3 is bringing up the pressure that is on the players. And I think there's something to that, right? Again, by virtue of the names on the roster, I think there's a lot of like, okay, this team's going to be very good. Power rankings all had us very high, you know, definitely top 4 in like every power ranking. Yeah. So that does create a sense of pressure for the players, especially for the new ones who are trying to acclimate. I don't have the impression that Bang's struggling with it. Mm-hmm. I just have Bang and Aframu, I think, need to work some things out. I think they need to find which picks they synergize well with, because I think like Ash and Tom Kench is not it. But you know, that's definitely something to consider, as well as the pressure that they're feeling. So like he probably feels a lot of pressure, especially since he had a bad game early. Yeah. Though I mentioned I thought he bounced back pretty nicely from that. And is probably feeling a lot of pressure after today. Though he is kind of a head down kind of guy. And someday he just sounds like he needs a friend, man. Someday in the interviews, he's like, I don't really know anyone here. Like, we need to just get someday a girlfriend or something, and then we'll be all good.
We just need to move to LA and be friends with someday, hang out with him, you know, play some like intramural sports or something. I don't know. Get the guy out of the house, have some fun.
Yeah. But there is a palpable pressure in the air, and
this is something I've been wanting to talk about a little bit is, so, you know, the player mini heist episodes we got, every player talked about their ambitions for themselves. They were all super high. Super high. Yeah. So someday, I can't remember what he said. I think it was like just best top lane in NA.
Yeah, I think
I don't think he went so far as to say MVP, even though last season that was kind of the conversation.
I think Anda said first team, right?
Anda said first team. Who he said MVP, which that's bold.
All right, Huhi, yeah.
I mean, and that's not
Go
just
for
like
it, dude.
bold for Huhi. That's bold for anybody to say I'm going to be the MVP. Because you got 4 other guys on your team who you have to beat for that honor, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, Afro said anything less than first is a disappointment. So, yeah, the expectations were super high, I think in part because of last season. But clearly, the players they had incredibly high hopes for what we'd accomplish too. So expectations were high all around. And when you're sitting at 3 and 5, I think there's a little bit of that like crisis moment where you're like, so I'm not going to get those things that I had set for myself at the start of this season. Like, I think it's safe to say those things are out.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Might have a like Cloud9-esque run on the back half of the split.
Yeah, but even then,
within
it's
the
like,
realm of possibility. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and it's a valid point. Maybe the team just needs to do like a little retreat, you know?
Like I
Go
still
to the
think we can be
Bahamas
super.
and kick it for a while and not talk about league.
You had to be a quick trip.
Yeah.
You'll scream while you're there. I still think we can have a very successful season and split. I just think that the individual kind of expectations they'd all set for themselves are clearly like those are getting further away every game.
Yep.
The season's not lost. The split's not done. It's not time to like burn everything in the house and move on. But is that something people do in hard times? I don't know.
Well,
light
I like
my house on fire.
Bedingerim in Twitch chat says pull Golden Guardians to buy a ton of Nerf guns. That's an option too. Well, okay, so clearly, yeah, there's some things to be done, but we're coming up on week 5. Week 5, we have Optic on Saturday, and then we have the mighty Team Liquid on Sunday.
The biggest brother battle.
It's evolved from the big brother battle to the biggest brother battle. How are you feeling about these two matchups? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
What are the desires of your heart?
We're going to win every game. That's the desire of my heart. We'll beat Optic. We will beat Optic.
We will get on a plane, fly there, activate the 100 talk buff, and
fly back. Activate. We have to test if the buff activates when you set foot in LA, and then we'll come back.
We'll see what the border is.
Yeah. We'll beat Optic, and yeah. You talk about TL. I know you had some interesting thoughts on that one.
Well, I mean, I like how you're just saying we'll beat Optic, like it's a foregone conclusion. I mean, they're really they're a game behind us, right?
They're a game behind us, but
I don't think they're like you said earlier. I don't think there are any like games where it's just like, okay, that's a win, pencil it in.
I know. I want to pencil it in. I just want to pencil it in.
Okay, well, look, yes, all right. Let's just say we'll beat Optic. So
okay, thank you.
So
Thanks
Team Liquid is the thing. Here's what I tweeted out on Saturday. I said, like, I forget exactly what I said, but something like, it feel like it's about time for Team Liquid to have a fumble, right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen on Saturday, though they didn't have a great showing against Golden Guardians. Like, they looked a little shaky, and then today they went down to TSM. Mm-hmm. Okay.
In what fashion? I didn't see the game.
I didn't actually see the game either.
Yeah.
Somebody
in chat let us know if it was close.
Yeah. But so TSM pulled off a victory. I'm going to have to watch that VOD tomorrow. But like a team like Team Liquid, like you have that mid-season loss and then you learn from it and you don't lose again. Like that's kind of how these things play out, man. Like you think about like college basketball and stuff. It's like, okay, the team that like loses the one game and then they like learned, oh, we can be beat, so we better try hard every time.
Yeah.
And then that's just run away with it. So I feel like we lost our opportunity to steal one from Big Brother right there. So I think the timing on the TSM win is just bad for us, and they're going to be super motivated to prove themselves again. So I think Team Liquid is going to have a very dominant weekend, and I don't see us being able to beat them right now.
And honestly, here's my this is my.
By the way, chat says they got stomped. It wasn't close.
Yeah. So they're going to be mad. This is my ambitious hope for the way TL thinks about us. I think that they would hate to lose to us, maybe even more than TSM. And here's why. TSM is one of those teams that everybody's like, they're supposed to win. That's what they're supposed to do. So I think for TL, even it's like, yeah, I mean, TSM, you know, they've got a ton of talent. They're just slackers. They don't try, you know, whatever. For us, they talk so much about beating us that I think for them to lose to us would be a huge blow for them. So I think they're going to show up to play in a serious way, in a like big time.
Yeah. So I'm not super optimistic on that. I'm thinking we have a 1-1 weekend coming up.
I think we have a 1-1 weekend. I do think we can beat TL. Like if we are playing at our absolute best, I think we can beat them. I think that it's still possible. It's just we just have to be clean, and we were so far from clean this weekend that we got a ways to go.
Yeah, and it just sucks so bad in my mind that like we have them first in the round robin. If like they were our week 4 or 5 game and then our week 9 game, our chances would be so much better against them. I feel like, but like we have to play them at the top of everything, and like obviously we're not in form right now, so it's just going to be a hard weekend, I think.
It will be,
but we'll see what we do, and we'll see if there's any more decisive like direction out of, all right, this is what we're going to look like going forward. I surely hope so. So
yes.
I think my cold has like put a wall on how much longer I can do this show, so I think we'll go ahead and start wrapping up here if you're okay with that.
Yep. We are at time, so that's appropriate.
So which means it's time to announce the winner of the 100 Talk Royalty Tea giveaway. This thing back here, but not this one in a package that's new and fresh and beautiful. Again, thanks to everyone for entering, because, you're obviously retweeting and commenting and helping us look good on the interwebs, which is something that we always want to do. And we have randomly chosen a winner, and that winner is YouTube user George Miller. So YouTube user George Miller, get in touch with us on YouTube.
Way to go, George.
Way to go, George. Congratulations on winning.
Just to clarify, his username is George Miller.
Yeah, his YouTube is George Miller. So,
right. So I hope that the guy's name is actually George.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe that's just his screen name.
Right. His fake name is George Miller. YouTube user George Miller. Get in touch with us. We'll get your info and send you a beautiful shirt. And maybe we'll also say what your like in-game name is or something too. So we're not, I feel like we just doxed George Miller.
Trust me, there is at least a couple George Millers in the U.S.
Okay, good. Yeah, I guess if we're gonna dox anybody, might as well be, John Smith or whatever. Anyways, that's the winner. So again,
that's the way it goes. Play again next time.
And the consolation is that there will definitely be more giveaways happening this year. So wait until that next drop. We might have a little something for you.
We certainly will. It's not going to be the pin. That stays with us.
The pin is never leaving my desk because I have a responsibility to Ron Robinson's spirit, which is trapped inside of it. So I'm not letting that out of my sight.
There's this Horcrux.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Everybody, send us your takes, send us your questions. We'd love to just continue to talk to you through the week about how everybody's feeling, especially right now in these super emotional times, man. When so much is happening.
We don't know specifically what's going on for the Academy streams this week, but they are super fun. So whether it's us, whether it's somebody else, whatever, just tune in for those, because
they're a lot of fun.
The Academy team is a great team and they're fun to watch. And if you like 100 Thieves, you will enjoy that. And also, it's just it's a different atmosphere. It's kind of a fun. It's like Friday Night League or Thursday Night League. It's just a good time.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's a way to get like 100 Thieves fix, at a different point during the week. So come watch our beautiful boys, whether it's us casting or somebody else. And this should be a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun in Twitch chat. So everybody, thanks for listening. Hopefully we have some great news with a wonderful shining 2-0 weekend next week.
Can't wait to talk about that. Can't wait to talk about well, we probably won't talk about it too much, but yeah, COD Job coming out tomorrow.
Oh, COD Job coming out tomorrow. So yes, if you're a listener of this, please comment on that when it comes out. 0 to 100 is the actual name of it. The number is 0 to 100. Just spam COD Job in the comments for us, please, if you don't mind.
They may not actually love that. I'm not sure.
Just do it. That's how we roll.
There were a couple of really good. Scion Bot had one. I saw a couple of people putting COD Job in there.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. We may or may not be playing some games a little bit later tonight too, so hang around on Twitch if you want to do that and talk some more. We love everybody and we miss you already, and we can't wait to see you again.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
100 Thieves, undefeated rest of the season. Go. Bye.
Launch.